Welcome back, everyone. It is time. Google Stadia truly has a competitor in the market in the form of Amazon Luna, something we've been anticipating for quite some time. Originally codenamed Amazon Tempo, but we officially got the announcement last week. But before we get into all that, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to get subscribed, turn that bell notification on so you stay up to date with new content right here on this channel as it goes live. We did discuss Luna in a special edition of the Stadia Initiative last Friday. We did that with the Sounds of Stadia. I'm currently editing the video. There's some things I need to take out of it in terms of privacy issues, so I gotta do that. But you can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you happen to listen to it. Just search the Stadia Initiative and you'll listen to it in full. The full 2 hours we did with Chris and Tom over at the Sounds of Stadia. Again, congratulations on 52 episodes and counting over on the Sounds of Stadia. It's not easy to do a podcast, let alone for 52 weeks. So awesome stuff. If you haven't already subscribed to them, you can definitely click the link that's in the description of every single video we do here on this channel, because I do share my favorite creators. Now on to Amazon Luna, because Amazon Luna is something we were expecting to hear about. Let's be honest, we didn't know exactly what we're going to hear about in terms of how Amazon was going to approach what they're going to be doing. Now, if you want a full list of the games available, I'm not really going to talk too much about the actual games that are going to be in there, because that's a subjective thing. There's a link in the description as well from Cloudy with a Chance of Games, our good friend Duncan. It's his website, so definitely check that out too, so you can see a full list of the day one games coming to Amazon Luna. Now, Amazon Luna was initially codenamed Tempo, as far as we're aware. So we didn't know much out of the fact that Amazon was going to be doing their own cloud gaming service. Phil Spencer over at Microsoft has said that Amazon and Google are our chief competitors, and they're heavy leaning into Game Pass and xCloud, or formerly known as xCloud, is kind of evident of that. Now, of course, they're obviously a big competitor when it comes to the PS5, but that's not here or there. Amazon Luna. So the opinions have been split almost unanimously both ways. Okay, so people are saying, okay, they're doing exactly what Stadia should have been doing, or maybe Amazon's missing a beat. So let's kind of go over what Amazon's official splash page is here, and just talk about, is Amazon doing something better than Stadia, or are they kind of not learning Stadia's mistakes here? So let's just jump in here. So immediately off the bat, Amazon Luna is available in just the United States. It's supposed to go into early access here in the next couple weeks. Early October is what we're being told. And you have to be US based. They are making it clear that this is early access. They're not saying this is a founders program or anyone that buys a Premier Edition can get in. So they're being very transparent about this. I hope that's one thing they might have learned from Google, is that they need to be, when it comes to the gaming community specifically, a lot of people are very, I don't know what the word is, but they need to be told things like this. So telling us this is early access kind of gives you that leeway that it's not the full product. You're going to expect some hiccups along the way, and it may not be feature flesh like you're hoping for, but this is kind of a taste of what we're going to give you here in the future. Now, that's cool. I requested early access, of course, because I like playing anywhere I can. And if I can play all the games that they're going to play, like Control on cloud gaming, it's awesome. I believe it's on GFN, but do not own the GFN version or the Epic version. So early access has been requested. I'll link the video of this in the description as well. You can check it out. No waiting for lengthy downloads or updates. That's pretty much what Stadia's mantra is, that you don't have to worry about downloading stuff, which is probably the most underrated facet about cloud gaming, is that you don't have to worry about those things. Now, you can always talk about with PS5 or, PlayStations and Xboxes, that you can always have your downloads scheduled. And for whatever reason, for me, that doesn't always pan out. Like, sometimes I still have to go in and say, oh, here's an update, like, but I have it turned on. What's going on? But this, you never even have to worry about turning on a setting. It's always just going to be immediately available. Good messaging here. Stadia does this too, showing that you can pretty much play on any device that you own. We're going to get into an interesting device that's going to be included here. So game on your favorite screens. Luna is available on PC, Mac, Fire TV, and web apps for iPhone and iPad. So no Android stuff in there at all. Now, I believe Chase, when we were doing TSI, was kind of mentioning there might be a competitive reason why Android's not initially involved here. Now, iPhones and iPads, it's been notorious from Apple when it comes to the gaming side of things, so cloud gaming. So xCloud and Stadia have had some big issues, as has GFN, bringing over cloud gaming to Apple devices. Now, a way around this when it comes to doing the 30% cut and just kind of getting around the App Store is being able to utilize it through the web, through the Safari browser, which is what it's looking like Luna is going to be able to do. So through the iPhone and iPad Safari browsers, you'll be able to play Luna, which is a big win for Amazon. Of course, they'll need to get on Android too, but here in America, which is the only place you can play Luna just now, that's probably the best market penetration to go for, because that's where most people have their mobile devices at. Now, here's a list of the games. Like I said, I don't want to go too much into this because it's all subjective. Like, to me, of all these games I'm looking at, Sonic Mania is the one I'm most excited about, and I've beaten that game. But the fact of the matter is, while Sonic Mania appeals to me on a huge level, you're going to have games that, like the Surge 2, might appeal to someone else. Control, when we talked about on TSI, was the unanimous one people were most excited for. Now, you see Assassin's Creed Valhalla on the bottom left there. We'll get into that specifically in a moment. But just based off of what we can see here, the only games that Stadia and Luna share here right off the bat would be Metro Exodus and Grid. Both games are already a part of the Stadia Pro subscription model. So, oh, and SteamWorld Dig too. I did miss that over there too. So, Watch Dogs Legion, again, we'll also talk about that with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now, next thing down here, something for everyone. Explore action, adventure, platformer, indie, shooter, RPG, racing, and classic games from Ubisoft, Capcom, 505 Games, and Team 17. And we're always adding more. Awesome stuff there. Now, Ubisoft obviously is always been very, very good about bringing their stuff to new platforms. So the Wii U always got their support. Stadia immediately got their support, especially with the announcement that Uplay Plus is going to be showing up on Stadia at some point, hopefully by the end of the year, and hopefully in time for Valhalla and Watch Dogs and all this stuff. But that's another video. So that's good. Capcom obviously brings Resident Evil over. There's other games they're going to be bringing over. So like the Castlevania collection, the Contra collection. That's not Capcom. It's Konami. I don't know. Is it Konami? I don't know. I have to look it up. I don't know. I'm getting lost. But Capcom's a big deal. They do have Resident Evil over there. So getting Capcom's big. 505 Games does Control. So another good one. And I believe Team 17, is Grid involved with that? I think. I don't know off the top of my head. Things you should research, folks. But Castlevania, that's Konami. Yeah, that is Konami. Yes, definitely Konami. Okay, so that's Konami. But having Capcom is also a big deal too. All right, so here's the big difference. Here's what Luna's all about. Luna is a subscription-based model. If there's going to be something you're going to immediately compare it to, it's going to be to Game Pass, which I think is the easiest way of doing this. Now, the difference between Game Pass and Luna is that you're going to have the ability to get separate channels added to it. So think of Luna as it's really its own thing if you really think about it. Think of it as like a cable TV package for cloud gaming now. People have talked about cutting the cord for years, and you find yourself with 95 subscriptions. You're like, holy crap, this is actually costing me more than cable TV did. So hopefully this is not the avenue we end up going with. But immediately announced is that Luna Plus, which has all the games that's going to be in that link in the description from Cloudy with a chance of games, you're going to get that right off the bat with Luna Plus. So for $6, I believe you're going to have at least 30, maybe 40 games. So when it comes to the quantity, Luna has Stadia beat by quite a bit. Stadia's launch lineup was very minuscule. Of course, you had to pay for the games up front, which makes sense. Obviously, it's a gaming platform that's designed just like that. And I have a problem with that because it's always been, to me, a console in the cloud, and that's what it absolutely is. Of course, you have your own subscription there too. So with this, we're told right off the bat the first channel is what they're calling them is going to be from Ubisoft. Now, we don't have any pricing. We don't have any game list of sorts, but the way it's described here is very similar to how Uplay Plus works in that you get the Ultimate Editions with DLC, unlimited hours of play. Now, I'm guessing they're just saying that as maybe a way to combat what GFN has, because I don't anticipate Luna giving you a time window that you can only play a certain game for, which I think would be baffling if they did. Because that's one of my least, and I think it's pretty much everyone's least favorite aspects about GFN, is because the games you own, but you have a certain time window that you can only play them in. When I say time window, I mean you only have a certain amount of time that you can play it. So like an hour, I believe, if you're on Basic, 6 hours if you're on the Founders Edition. But here, it's letting you know that you have unlimited playtime. Good. You should. If you're paying for something, you should be able to play it unlimited. But it looks very Uplay Plus-like. They're not using the Uplay Plus branding just yet. I don't imagine they're going to have too many games right off the bat. The only ones we're very aware of is Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs Legion, Immortals Phoenix Rising, I believe, was also announced, and I don't know if Far Cry was. Far Cry 6. But as far as we know, we don't know too much about the Ubisoft side of things, but this kind of gives us a hint of what we should expect. So we're going to see like an Activision channel. We're going to see an EA channel at some point. So this can be exciting if it's going to be at a pretty decent price model. Now, if this shows up at $15.99 a month and every other publisher follows suit with that, this could get very expensive very quick if you want to play all those games all the time. Now, that's where this could become an issue. As for me personally, I like the idea of being able to buy my games and kind of going from there. Now, as far as we know, Amazon is not planning on doing that. They're planning on just kind of keeping this model. So what I'm interested to find out is if Luna is going to be in a spot where Game Pass is, where they have to constantly rotate these games. So will Control always be there? Will Sonic Mania always be there? Will Grid always be there? Or will they eventually rotate out? Now that could be scary. And I'm not the biggest fan of that model personally. Again, that's a subjective opinion, so you may be different, of course. I like being able to buy my games and have the ability to access them as long as the servers are alive. Now, this does give you a low entry point. Say, if you want to play Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I'm going to use that as an example because I'm excited for that game. So this is where I think Luna can beat Stadia or even Game Pass in a certain way. If I want to play Valhalla in November, and let's say Uplay Plus is not available for Stadia, then it's certainly not going to be on Xbox. Now, if it's available on Ubisoft for maybe $10 a month or $15 a month, I can get my enjoyment out of a month's worth of that subscription from Valhalla and possibly be done. Now, it's granted, it's like pretty much just renting the game at that point, but if I only need to spend 30 days with it, I just came up big. And not only that, I'm getting the Ultimate Edition, so I'm getting all the DLC with it. So that's a big win for Luna. All right. Now, like I said, I typically don't play my games like that because I usually don't have the amount of time in the day to be able to pull that kind of maneuver off. So I need more than a month to play a game like Assassin's Creed. So to me, an Ubisoft subscription does nothing for me unless, I'm going to be playing multiple games. I would rather have the game just outright bought. So then from now until the end of time, I always have access to that game. But this is going to appeal to a lot of people because this is what a lot of people want a Stadia to be. Now, it's not realistic to assume that Luna Plus will do what Stadia has not and won't, or anyone for that matter, and that's having all these AAA games a part of Luna Plus. You're not going to see Resident Evil Village as a part of this Luna Plus subscription day and day unless maybe they strike a deal with Capcom, which would be a big deal. But you're not going to, just look at the list right here of these are the games you're showing off because these are the games you want people to say, holy crap, that's going to be on Luna. Let's jump in. None of these games are new games coming out except for the Ubisoft games, which is going to be its own separate subscription, and which would make sense as a part of that whole idea. Now, this to me, when everyone's talking about it on Friday about it, I got to be honest, like this list doesn't appeal to me all that much. And again, that's subjective. Me saying that doesn't mean you were the same way. Sonic Mania, I own that on 4 different platforms. Control, I already own that. Grid, I have that on Stadia. Resident Evil 7, if I really want to play Resident Evil 7, I can pick it up for $10 anywhere I want to. Metro, I already have that with Stadia. So, like a lot of these games, if I was interested in them, I already played them. And a lot of people had that same notion with Stadia when that came out, when it came to the games you'd have to buy. That I get. A lot of those games did have a much shorter window of from release date to Stadia's launch date. So like Mortal Kombat 11 and NBA 2K20, while they were technically old games by the measure, they were still new enough. Like these games aren't really new enough, if you know what I mean. So, of course, the Ubisoft games will be. You don't have to keep saying that, but it is what it is. Now, let's look at the controller here. To me, a lot of people have been saying this looks like the Switch Pro controller. It's set up the same, I guess, but it's just like, this is like the modern day looking controller. Like to me, the first thing I thought was SteelSeries, because to me, this kind of looks cheap. So here's what I'm going to say where Stadia absolutely destroys it. Everything else I think is subjective and to personal opinion. Mine's a transparency thing at the beginning, because I think Stadia, that's the thing they got to continue to work on, is the transparency aspect and constantly get in front of things. Like when this video launches, it'll be September 28th. And Dead by Daylight is an example of a game that was announced for September and 2 days left, and we still don't know what day it's coming out. I'm assuming it's going to be on the 29th, tomorrow, but you never know. But that's the point, is we don't know. So going back to the controller here, this is where Stadia wins for me, because while I do like the purple aspect of it. I mean, if you've seen the new logo coming here in October, of course, I love the purple aesthetic to it. The D-pad to me looks significantly more comfortable. The D-pad on the Stadia controller is atrociously rigid and hurts if you play like a Mortal Kombat game with it. Outside of that, I'm not the biggest fan. First of all, I'm tired of trying to figure out what buttons the select button and the start button is on the menu UIs. I always have to look down like, okay, the hamburger button is the start button. The circle is going to be the select button. Like, it's always hard for me to remember that because every console maker is pretty much doing it differently. They're doing the exact same thing as Stadia when it comes to how it's connecting to Luna. It's through Wi-Fi, which awesome. I've never had a problem with that aspect of it. So I like that idea. Now, here's what I don't like. It doesn't say it here, but the initial price for this for the early access users will be $50. So that's cool. That is actually a benefit against Stadia, which costs $70 outright. But of course, that's what the actual asking price of this controller will end up being. However, two things Stadia beats this in. This, as far as we know, is the only version of the controller you can pick up. So there's no difference when it comes to the color schemes, if that's a big thing to you. But the big thing is it requires AA batteries. This thing requires batteries, and they're going to be asking you $70. And it's not going to have a rechargeable battery. That, to me, is a loss. Fortunately, when it comes to Luna and pairing it with a PC, and sometimes I believe it's going to work with the Fire stuff, like the TV and the Cube, you will be able to hook up Bluetooth controller suits. So I can use my PS4 controller. I can use my Xbox One controller, but it kind of sucks that this is going to be running off of AA batteries instead of the rechargeable control or the rechargeable battery that the Stadia controller does and the PS4 controller does and the Nintendo Switch Pro controller does. I don't think the Series X controller is going to be doing it either because that's pretty much the Xbox One controller. To me, it's 2020. These things need to be rechargeable. Okay, sure, you might be a fan of the, put your own batteries in there, whatever. All right, so here's another thing. This is kind of a one-to-one thing with YouTube and Stadia. However, it seems that with Luna, and it's not in here. I'm gonna have to pull this up separately. So, while I kind of speak about this, let me pull this on the side here. Is that they're going to integrate Twitch into Luna? That's not the surprising aspect of it, because they should. Twitch is the biggest game streaming platform without a doubt. It's not even close. That's one thing I wish Google would work on as a company overall, is that they need to look at really marketing YouTube gaming as a huge platform. It's kind of a mess to get or in and around it. But this is kind of want to show you because this kind of is intertwined with what I'm talking about here. So this is what we're looking at, is the Luna UI. Now, the Luna UI here shows you control. So this would probably be attached to the library, which you click control and you get this. So you get trailer and screenshot. That's cool. This is on the UI when you're playing the game, which this does not exist on Stadia, by the way. It's literally just a row of games and that's it. Under that, you got streams of this game. So this will immediately connect you to the Twitch app, and vice versa. You'll be able to connect into Luna through Twitch. So you see someone playing Control and it's available on Luna. Obviously this is. You can click play now on there and you'll be brought to your UI and you can start playing Control on Luna. Now, over here, I don't know if my mouse is showing up, but you got some menu options here, which is nice. You even got a search bar, which this tweet I made here is actually referencing that specifically, is that Amazon Luna isn't even out yet and it already has a search bar. Which Stadia still does not. Stadia, being, attached to Google, you think Google would be all over that. But there's a search bar, which is really cool. A settings bar, we don't know what's going to be a part of that playlist. I'm curious on what that is actually going to entail. A library here and a home, I assume this is going to have a storefront within it. So that's good news there. So you'll be able to subscribe to games. Outside of that, maybe nothing else, because as far as we know, you can't buy games through Luna. So the integration with Twitch will be interesting to see, because as far as we know, Baldur's Gate 3, which will be showing up on October 6th on PC and Stadia, PC will have Twitch integration with it with their version of Crowd Choice. So Luna's more than likely going to include that as well. And that's pretty much it. The frequently asked questions, if you have other questions about it, there they are. But I'm kind of curious what you guys think about Amazon Luna. Is this something you are ready for? Is it something that interests you? Do you like the subscription model that Amazon Luna is going to be inhibiting within their service? Everything else kind of is pretty much running exactly how Stadia would. You can use your PC, you can use apps on your phone. Actually, you can use a web browser. You can use the Fire TV sticks, and of course you can use the Fire TV Cube. Right now it's at 1080p locked up to 4K will soon show up for it. And the tech-wise, I'm going to go ahead and just pass that on to someone like MM2K or Eddie or Chase to tell you all about the tech side of it, because that's not really my area of expertise. Because they can talk to you more about GPUs and CPUs, and I just be like, what? Okay. Let me know your thoughts about Luna in the comment section down below. How do you think it's going to affect Stadia, if at all? Does Stadia respond to this in some way, or are they just going to kind of keep the course? Let me know your thoughts. If you haven't already liked this video, it does help other people find this channel just like you did. And of course, subscribe, because that's the easiest thing you can do to help this channel grow. And as we move towards October, again, another reminder, we're going to be talking about everything in the world of gaming in the middle of October and from then on out, including Stadia, including Luna, including the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Nintendo Switch Pro, if that ever shows up, PC, whatever the hell we want to talk about, because gaming is what we all like to do. We love gaming here. And that's about it. All right, so let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. In the meantime, we will catch you a little bit later this week. Of course, we're going to get the Stadia Pro games announced probably either later today or tomorrow. Maybe Dead by Daylight shows up. Hopefully Crowd Play and Crowd Choice shows up with that. So this could be a pretty monumental week for Stadia itself if they have some really big announcements coming up. And if you missed it, Rainbow Six Siege was just rated from the ESRB over the weekend for Stadia. So another Ubisoft title coming and another way to round out that Uplay Plus lineup. So again, have a great one. We will catch you down the road and see you next time.